Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Sad. It's hurting. I think that little girl is gone.
Family and neighbors mourn a 6-year-old girl killed in a suspected hit-and-run crash in Surrey, while others demand more safety measures.
I tell my 12-year-old to avoid this intersection.
Plus,
9 years that we have been waiting for governments across the land, well, certainly here in BC, to treat the toxic drug crisis as the emergency that it is.
almost a decade later and more than 16,000 lives lost. BC marks the start of the public health emergency over the toxic drug crisis amid changing policies and politics. And
hoping to have your support.
We knock on every door, every part of the riding.
we check in with federal candidates at your doors and on your streets as they try to win your votes.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. A memorial is growing in North Surrey after a young girl was struck and killed in what police say is a hit and run on Sunday. Officers arrested a suspect, though they haven't recommended any charges yet. As John Hernandez reports, some neighbors say they've worried about the intersection for years.
Flowers, a stuffed animal, and tears left near an intersection in Surrey's Fraser Heights. The memorial to a very young life cut short.
I'm very sad. It's hurting. I think that little girl is gone.
Police say a driver in a gray pickup truck hit a 6-year-old girl and her 2 siblings near 164th Street and 108th Avenue just after 4 p.m. Sunday, then took off. First responders tried to save the little girl's life.
She was lying down on the ground. It's not moving.
She died at the scene. Her 7-year-old sister and 16-year-old brother were also injured. About an hour later, police received calls that a similar-looking truck struck a parked car about a kilometer away.
When police attended, RCMP officers very quickly were able to locate the vehicle and the driver of that vehicle. That individual was initially arrested.
Police say alcohol may have been a factor. The suspect has since been released, and police have not recommended charges yet.
These investigations are unbelievably technical and very, very complex and can often take weeks, if not months.
Officers have been canvassing the area as neighbors mourn.
Our community has warned the city and the police that this is a really unsafe intersection.
Jessica Weismiller says her worries about the intersection go back years. There are no traffic lights, and an elementary school is just a few hundred meters away.
I am not, surprised in some ways. I tell my 12-year-old to avoid this intersection every time if he's out by himself. He's not to come here.
CBC News has contacted the city about the safety concerns. Police say traffic calming measures could be installed in the future. Meanwhile, investigators are asking anyone with information or video of the crash to come forward. John Hernandez, CBC News, Surrey.
9 years ago, BC declared a public health emergency around toxic drugs. Since then, more than 16,000 people have been killed in this province alone. As Katie DeRosa reports, the debate about the best ways to try to save more lives is as divisive as ever.
On the front steps of the legislature, the faces of some lost to toxic street drugs since the province declared a public health emergency in 2016.
It's been 9 years.
The emergency was declared in response to the deaths of 529 people from toxic street drugs the year before. Since then, the death toll has climbed, claiming the lives of more than 16,000 people.
We have been waiting for governments across the land, well, certainly here in BC, to treat the toxic drug crisis as the emergency that it is.
Today's rally, organized by the harm reduction group Moms Stop the Harm. Many of those present angry that BC's drug policy has become a political football.
This crisis is not just about toxic drugs. It is about toxic policies.
Addictions medicine Dr. Jess Wilder co-founded Doctors for Safer Drug Policy, which has set up unsanctioned overdose prevention sites outside of hospitals in Nanaimo and Victoria because the province won't.
Harm reduction is about keeping people alive, and saving lives is not controversial.
Overdose prevention sites have been mentioned several times in the federal election campaign. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre called them drug dens, while Liberal leader Mark Carney says he wants to see evidence that they're effective. The NDP and the Greens support them. 9 years into the toxic drug crisis, there's still no political consensus on how to solve it. One BC Conservative MLA says some of the harm reduction policies that advocates have pushed have exacerbated the crisis.
So some of the individuals who are outside rallying right now are some of the ones that were advocates for some of the programs that have led to death and destruction here in British Columbia.
BC's health minister, meanwhile, defended the NDP government's approach.
We're going to continue to make evidence-based decisions.
Former Chief Coroner Lisa Lapointe, however, says the province's drug policy has been used as a political wedge issue.
Compassion is almost seen as a liability these days,
moving BC further away from being able to solve this deadly crisis. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
Still on the island, transit workers in the Cowichan Valley have been on strike for more than 65 days now. Earlier in the day, they rallied at BC Transit headquarters in Victoria. The CBC's Catherine Marlowe was there.
Well, Dan, in many ways, it's the usual stuff. They want higher wages so that they match those transit operators in other regions, like here in Victoria. They're also worried about pensions. But there's one other thing that the average person might not think of, and that is washroom breaks. So when bus and handy dart drivers in the Cowichan Valley have to use the washroom, they have to pull over the bus, even if they're en route, and then use a washroom just like you might when you're running errands at a grocery store or a coffee shop or in some other public place. Stephen Baines is president of Unifor Local 333.
With working conditions that are not even taking into account basic bodily functions and human rights, such as washroom rights, we're seeing that very few people actually want to make a career in this industry.
So, Dan, in addition to pensions and wages, they're asking for washroom breaks and also places to take them so that they're not relying on public washrooms.
What does the employer have to say about this?
Well, transit in the Cowichan Valley is operated by a private company called Transdev. It's contracted out by BC Transit. Transdev sent a statement to CBC that says it is, quote, fully committed to the mediation process in place to address the issues still standing. And then it went on to say that finding a resolution that supports our employees while maintaining the long-term sustainability of transit services in the Cowichan Valley is the goal. There are 2 more days of mediation scheduled starting on Wednesday.
All right. Catherine Marlowe in Victoria. Thanks very much. Darius Madavi is here for our first look at the weather and a lovely day.
It really was. Across the vast majority of southern BC, just dry and sunny skies. In the central interior, we did have seen some showers moving through, those high elevation flurries as well. Over here on the island, we also saw some showers moving across most of the North Island, some pretty consistent but light rain through most of the day. And now that cloud that's been sitting over that area and the west coast of the island slowly moving south. A couple showers on parts of the east coast of the island as well. But for the most part, calm, and that's the story over the next few days as well. Nothing but really sunny skies and, temperatures warming up through the end of the week, Dan. Seems like it's going to be really nice.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, an all-candidates forum was held in Kimberley in the BC Kootenays on Friday night. Political hopefuls discussed everything from climate change to economic development to the trade war with the U.S. The CBC's Corey Bullock caught up with voters in Kimberley to see what's on their minds.
What matters to you?
Well, I understand the tariffs are a big thing right now. Of course, it's important for everyone in the economy. But really, for me, the number one thing is climate action.
You know, what I think is on everybody's mind this election, and not probably in previous elections, but our relationship with our southern neighbor.
The most vital issues for me are climate change and housing.
Dozens of Kimberley residents were in attendance at Friday night's all-candidate forum, where 4 of 6 candidates for the Columbia Kootenay Southern Rockies riding spoke on a number of issues.
I have no right to tell a woman what she can and can't do with her body, and this issue is settled.
Small businesses could thrive in ways that maybe today's entrepreneurs and practitioners wouldn't even be able to imagine if we seriously revolutionized our tax system.
Of course, the trade war between the U.S. and Canada was a hot-button topic.
Diversifying our trade, diversifying the partners we do business with is absolutely critical. I am fully supportive of the strong retaliatory measures that Canada has displayed.
We need to start changing the way that we are actually exporting our wood and start looking at other markets other than down south.
But what do their constituents really want to hear about?
I'm from Mexico originally, and I never experienced wildfires or see the changing seasons as dramatically as I have now. And
You know, I see Canadian flags everywhere. I see businesses that are, proud to be Canadian. Why is that? Because we want to remain Canadian. And I think we're concerned. We're nervous about our future.
Why does that matter to you so much?
Well, I'm on the land every day. I teach outdoor education with the kids in Kimberley and Cranbrook here. And I see the changes that have happened, and I see the impacts in the fire. Living here in Kimberley for 16 years, we didn't have a lot of fire back then, and all of a sudden, I feel like in the last 10 years, we're really experiencing a lot of the impacts of climate change. I see it in the winters, the lack of snowpack.
Canadians have just over 2 weeks to make their decision. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
To the leaders now, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says if he becomes Prime Minister, he plans to use the notwithstanding clause in the Charter of Rights to carry out part of his tough on crime agenda.
I am announcing today a Conservative government will reintroduce and pass the law that empowered judges to impose consecutive sentences for killers convicted of multiple murders. The worst mass murderers should never be allowed back on our streets. For them, a life sentence should mean what it says, a life sentence. They should only come out in a box.
Poilievre says he respects Supreme Court decisions, but also respects Canadians' charter rights guaranteeing life, liberty and security of the person. Both Liberal leader Mark Carney and NDP leader Jagmeet Singh warn it is a dangerous step toward undermining charter rights.
Today, I'm announcing our plan to build the tools needed to ensure Canada's sovereignty, to support a new approach to made-in-Canada defence procurement, while helping our industries and businesses reach new markets around the world.
Mark Carney, meanwhile, is promising to make significant new investments in the Canadian military and create a new defence procurement agency to streamline buying equipment and buy Canadian whenever possible. This as NDP leader Jagmeet Singh pledges to hire 35,000 new nurses between now and 2030 as part of his plan to tackle the nursing shortage.
In addition, we have a plan around recruitment. There are a lot of internationally trained nurses that are in our country. We need to streamline the path for them to be recognized for their work and to be able to get qualified.
Singh also pledges to require provinces to meet nurse-to-patient ratios, guarantee fair wages for nurses, and improve their working conditions. And offer as well a $5,000 tax credit to nurses and personal support workers. Green Party leader Jonathan Pedneau, meanwhile, was in Montreal discussing why climate action must remain a top priority in this country.
The greatest threat to our sovereignty, our health right now is the climate emergency. And the threat is already here in Quebec and across the country. The climate crisis is not some distant possibility. It is here and it is real.
Pedneau pointed to the rising, deadly and economic toll of the climate emergency. He says the Green Party supports the open letter from hundreds of mayors and councillors for a bold national leadership on climate and infrastructure. And in just a few days, 5 federal leaders will be on stage debating each other. The French debate is this Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. It will be broadcast live on CBC News Network with simultaneous English translation for those who need it, and everywhere you stream CBC News. The English debate, meanwhile, is on Thursday starting at 4 p.m. Pacific, broadcast live here on CBC TV. Well, cross-border concerns, what you need to know before traveling south into the United States. A news you can use after this.
I'm Stephen Quinn, and I love living here in Vancouver, BC. It's a city with world-renowned beauty, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. In our new daily podcast, This is Vancouver, we're exploring the diverse range of issues and stories in the city, the good, the bad, and everything in between, as told by the people who live it every day. Don't miss This is Vancouver, available wherever you get your podcasts, and I'll talk to you soon.
As the Trump administration places new rules on Canadians wanting to travel south of the border for more than 30 days, cross-border trips are putting many people on edge. Some Canadians fear more questions and closer scrutiny. The CBC's Rafferty Baker has more on what you need to know before you head south.
Thinking of making a cross-border trip to the United States? President Donald Trump is focused on border security. People are living their political lives on social media. And then there's the recent case of a Canadian detained for 11 days after applying for a work permit.
I was placed into a holding cell, which was this tiny freezing cold cell with an open toilet. There was about 5 other girls in there, and they handed me this mat with this aluminum foil, and she said, "Here's your blanket."
So has it become riskier for Canadians to travel into the United States? Vancouver immigration lawyer Cindy Switzer says she's not getting more cases where people are in a jam,
but she is getting more calls from concerned clients.
It's definitely new that people are concerned about traveling through the border and consequences.
Switzer says if you're a Canadian citizen without a criminal conviction or any other reason for inadmissibility, like an infectious health issue, you should be allowed to enter the United States as a visitor for up to 6 months. If you're a Canadian with citizenship from, say, a Latin American or Middle Eastern country, she says your Canadian passport should do the work. But even something like your place of birth could lead to being held longer at the border and more questions. What if you're entering on a work permit in the United States or applying for one? That appears to have been the case for Jasmine Mooney when she was detained.
Generally speaking, if you have your paperwork in order, it should be fine. But, you know, it's hard to say in this environment.
Megan McDermott with the BC Civil Liberties Association says, like elsewhere in society, discrimination can be at play at the border. She says she's concerned certain groups will face extra scrutiny, questions, risks. People with Muslim-sounding names, those associated with political protest or having opinions that are out of sync with the U.S. administration. Trans people, migrants, temporary workers, foreign students.
For these more vulnerable groups, if they're set on going into the United States or it's unavoidable travel for them, they should just be very mindful about these risks.
So what can you do to protect yourself at the border? It's important to know that border officials have the right to search and seize electronic devices. McDermott says that simply locking your device, putting it in airplane mode, and turning off facial recognition may not be enough. Officials have software to clone and access locked phones.
The absolute best way to protect yourself is to not bring any electronic devices or to bring burner ones that don't have any types of this information on it.
McDermott says for politically active people who may get extra scrutiny, for example, those posting in favor of Palestinians on social media, it's worth making any searchable social media accounts private before your trip. Switzer says while the possibility exists for a thorough device search, extra questioning, and delays or even detention at the border, most people won't experience that. And she says you should be able to simply withdraw your application for admission if you don't like the questioning, and just turn around. To put it plainly though, the vibes at the border have changed.
I wouldn't say that the officers necessarily have this new mindset where they're trying to go after everybody, but there's no question that there's directives from the executive branch to, make sure that the borders are strong.
So, if you're planning a trip across the border into the U.S. anytime soon, make sure you know the powers border officials have and the risks that exist. Rafferty Baker, CBC News, Vancouver.
It was a sunny day on Cypress Mountain where the ski hill has now gone quiet. The last day of spring operations was on Sunday. But there's plenty of sun to soak up this week, up high and below. Darius has your BC-wide weather forecast coming up.
I think it's important to give a human face to the stories that we hear every day, the people that they affect. And I think talking to those people is what really gives us the true sense of the impact of the stories that we're hearing.
Global demand for matcha is skyrocketing. It's a popular green tea powder, but experts say Japan's limited production and declining number of tea farmers are causing supply crunches. Lian Yu has the story.
Elliot Graham at Superbolt Tea in Vancouver says the demand for drinks made with matcha, a Japanese green tea powder, is booming.
It's trending right now. Matcha is super trendy and everyone wants to see what the hype is about.
Markyukoi Mine was the most hyped matcha brand on TikTok this past year.
It's been popular for years, but due to recent trends on social media, the taste for matcha is at an all-time high.
Canada alone has increased from 2024 to 2023 160% in how much we're buying from Japan on matcha alone.
That growing interest driving a shortage in Japan.
They have enough product, and but they don't have enough facilities to produce the product.
The prices are really upcharged online.
Some Vancouver cafe owners and suppliers are having to find ways around the shortage and rising costs by directly sourcing from matcha farms.
My whole family is based in Japan, so we're able to secure sort of like a consistent supply of matcha. But I would say like a lot of the other local businesses here are struggling because they rely on like a key wholesaler. This is our 90 grade of matcha, which is the highest quality that you can get.
He says more consumers want what's marketed as ceremonial matcha, which takes Japanese tea makers the longest to process. Kimi Zhao, who sells the Japanese powder online through her cafe Whisk Matcha, says she's seen a drastic change in customer behavior in response to the shortage.
I know a lot of people try to hoard the matcha at the moment. They're just afraid that it will be out of stock one day.
She hopes consumers don't start panic buying matcha and is advising people to only buy what they will use in the near future.
Because matcha, it needs to be fresh. So if you hoard it, if you have it for like a year, it's not going to taste as good.
I think just people are going to have to become a bit more resourceful in sourcing out the matcha, being open to different types of matcha and also different types of teas.
Experts recommend trying slightly lower grades of matcha, which can be just as beneficial for your health as the top tier. Lian Yu, CBC News, Vancouver.
A Toronto woman is speaking out about her privacy being breached after taking a Lyft ride last month. Moments after that ride ended, she got a text message. And as Sarah McMillan explains, in that text was a transcript of her and her friend's entire conversation in the car.
An 8-minute rideshare drive has led to weeks of unease and unanswered questions for Anvi Ahuja. Last month, she took a Lyft with her roommates to their downtown Toronto apartment. When she got home, she received a text message from an unknown number that she could only describe one way.
Freaky.
That message was a transcription of the conversation she'd had minutes earlier with her friends in the back of the car.
It was such a long, weird message, and I got really freaked out. I was like, I think I'm being stalked. I think this is just really freaky.
When she calls the number back,
we can't connect your call because your driver is not available right now.
It clearly showed to me that it's not a personal number. It's a number associated within a system, so that raised a lot more eyebrows for me.
Lyft's explanations about how this happened have been inconsistent. Ahuja says when she first spoke with a Lyft representative by phone that night, she was told the recording was part of a pilot project by the company. In later messages, the company blamed the driver for recording without Ahuja's consent, calling the behavior unacceptable. While drivers and riders don't have access to each other's phone numbers, Lyft's privacy policy says it uses a third party so they can call and text each other, which could be how the driver contacted Ahuja through a masked number. Lyft does have a recording pilot in some U.S. cities, but not here in Canada, and insists this incident is unrelated. Ahuja's experience could be more than just unsettling. In Canada, it's against the law to record someone else's conversation without their consent or a court order. Privacy experts say this incident could also contravene federal privacy laws. Anne Cowichan is Ontario's former privacy commissioner.
How can this take place? You're paying for a taxi equivalent to take you somewhere, Lyft in this case, and of course you assume that you're going to have conversations with other people in the car without it being taped and transcribed and retained. Completely unacceptable.
Lyft says it takes reports like this seriously, but Ahuja says she's not satisfied with how the company has responded.
It was not until like multiple nudges that I even got a response around the fact that we're so sorry your driver did that. I don't think Lyft took it seriously at all, and I don't think they took accountability on any of it.
Ahuja says she's done taking lifts. Sarah McMillan, CBC News, Toronto.
We are now into week 4 of this federal election campaign. Parties have been spending a lot of money on digital ads, but also hitting doorsteps, sidewalks, even going into local bars and businesses. The CBC's Lawrence Watt ventured out with some of them.
Canada works best when one party doesn't have all the power.
During the lost Liberal decade,
Canadians will choose their government in a few weeks.
So Canada is in the middle of a federal election, and more than ever, parties are trying to get your vote by campaigning online.
I retie my turban at least once a day.
Mike Myers, what are you doing here?
Canada, let's bring it home!
So the digital campaign is going strong, but it's not without its challenges. Creating content can be costly, the rise of AI is making it harder to spot fake ads, and many platforms use algorithms which can steer users into echo chambers.
We have seen a greater splintering of more people who are likely to be Conservative voters being on X, and people who are perhaps likelier to be Liberal or NDP have moved on to something like Blue Sky.
So given the limits of online campaigning, what are candidates doing to connect with people in person? What are they hearing from people on the doorstep? And what might it take to win over voters when some leaders are calling this the most important election in decades?
Let's have the highest voter turnout in the history of Canada.
To find out how the ground campaign is going, we're off to speak with 3 candidates, starting with NDP MP Peter Julian, who is running for re-election in the renamed riding of New Westminster Burnaby Mayardville. He's out with a team of volunteers continuing the age-old, pre-Wi-Fi tradition of door knocking. Using a virtual canvas sheet, Julian says he's determined to reach more people than in past campaigns.
What I'm finding is, particularly since COVID, we need to break down that isolation that exists, and the face-to-face conversations are vital for that. This year, we have knocked on more doors already than we normally do in the course of an entire campaign.
To find out what he's hearing, we followed Peter as he knocked on some doors.
Hello, how you doing?
I think I'm mostly thinking about affordability for everyone. If the milestones in their life it seems unreachable, then the drive in being successful, want to be accomplished, it will be even lower.
After leaving New Westminster, we took off to Vancouver's West End to meet another candidate, Liberal MP Hedy Fry, the longest-serving female MP in Canadian history. We've chosen to meet outside a Safeway on the busy intersection of Davie and Cardero.
It's a huge gay community, LGBTQ2SI community here. There are a lot of seniors here. So it's a very diverse riding.
How important is it to you to engage with voters face-to-face and have these kind of conversations?
Very important. For instance, I have about 900 seniors in my riding who do not have access to internet. So I see them, they come to buy their groceries, I can talk to them, we can chat. Door knocking in this riding is difficult. We have 44-story towers, and you cannot get into them, the new ones, unless you have a fob, and you've got to talk to the manager and the managers. So what you do is you go where the people are. Don't take anything for granted. Go and vote.
I'm a voter.
Hundreds of kilometers away from the densely packed Vancouver centre, another longtime MP is running in a very different region. Conservative Mel Arnold is seeking another term, this time in the riding of Kamloops-Shuswap Central Rockies. The region stretches from East Kamloops through Salmonarm and all the way to Golden. Arnold talked about his campaign to Daybreak Kamloops host Shelley Joyce.
So you're still doing that door knocking, are you?
Oh, absolutely. Every day, every night, just making sure we're hearing what the issues are in people's backyards.
How do you decide whose door you're going to knock on?
Well, we knock on every door, every part of the riding. We're obviously not going to be able to get to the thousands and thousands of doors that are out there, but we get to as many as possible.
What are you hearing from people on the doorstep?
The common issues are affordability, the lack of housing, and the rising crime rates. It's happening in communities right across the riding.
So while the campaigns play out online, many of the key issues are being felt on the ground. Affordability, safety, foreign threats, and trust at home. But how that shapes the outcome of the election remains to be seen. Lawrence Watt, CBC News, Vancouver.
Lawrence did request interviews with 6 Conservative candidates here in the Lower Mainland. All either declined or failed to respond. Donald Trump's trade policy is again evolving in real time. The president saying in the Oval Office, quote, "I don't change my mind, but I'm flexible." And as Katie Simpson explains, this time he teased an unspecified tariff break might be coming for the North American auto sector.
The jitters on Wall Street appear to be easing. North American markets closed slightly higher with the help of U.S. automotive stocks. Amid new suggestions, some auto sector tariffs may change.
I'm looking at something to help some of the car companies where they're switching to parts that were made in Canada, Mexico, and other places, and they need a little bit of time because they're going to make them here, but they need a little bit of time. So I'm talking about things like that.
The U.S. has already imposed 25% tariffs on foreign-made autos with carve-outs for CUSMA-compliant components. Additional tariffs on foreign auto parts are supposed to start next month.
There'll be a little bit of a relief because there might be a lowering of tariffs on a massive sector. But on the other hand, when he says this is temporary, people start to wonder just how temporary.
U.S. trade policy has been erratic, with tariffs announced, imposed, paused, and changed with little notice. The whiplash hitting electronics. Broad tariff exemptions were announced Friday, only to be walked back Sunday. The White House saying those items will be hit by different tariffs soon.
The president has a comprehensive, detailed, very sensible plan to manage rebooting our trade relationships.
A rebooting of trade relationships also underway overseas. Chinese President Xi Jinping launching a diplomacy tour in Vietnam. The first stop on a 3-country excursion. He's trying to secure additional markets for Chinese goods as the tit-for-tat trade war with the U.S. ramps up. An effort that seemed to irk the U.S. president back in Washington.
I see they're meeting today. Is that wonderful? That's a lovely meeting. They're meeting like trying to figure out how do we screw the United States of America?
There is new movement today on President Trump's promise to impose tariffs on pharmaceutical imports. The Commerce Department has launched an investigation into whether certain drugs may threaten national security, which could lead to tariffs. This, as experts warn, shortages in life-saving drugs could be the result of tinkering with supply chains. For more on this, let's bring in our medical columnist, Dr. Melissa Lem. We appreciate your time. Thanks for being here. So in the past, prescription drugs have been exempted from tariffs, but it's something the president has been bringing up time and time again. Are you hearing anything from concerned patients?
I would say my patients have definitely brought up their concerns around tariffs and the overall effects on the economy. Just last week, I had a conversation with a patient who came in, needed antibiotics, and then mentioned that he and his friends had been thinking about establishing an antibiotic factory in BC to deal with supply chain issues. But I would say overall, these concerns about drug costs reflect their overall concern about increasing issues with affordability as these policies continue to be put into place.
Are there any specific drugs or a generic set of drugs that patients have expressed more concern about than others?
Well, thankfully, we do manufacture a lot of drugs here in Canada, and we do import a lot of medications also not from the U.S. But I will say that we are increasingly familiar with drug shortages and drug accessibility issues here in Canada for a number of reasons over the past few years. One is supply chain issues because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and another one is climate change-induced disasters that have actually taken out factories where these drugs are created. So I think one thing that we have to do is look at our national kind of, there's a task force that looks into dealing with drug shortages, and perhaps they should really refocus their efforts on protecting our drug supply by bringing more drug manufacturing here within Canada.
Now, this research raises concerns about drug availability, affordability, supply stability. Is it a real concern of yours that patients may be cut off or at least have not have as best access as they normally would?
Well, initially, if the U.S. Exerts tariffs on Canada, American drug prices will go up, but these could have knock-on effects and on kind of ripple effects within Canada. So manufacturing costs could go up here in Canada. Also, the Canadian dollar could get weaker, and so we could eventually see higher drug costs here in Canada, and it is a concern.
And lastly, we appreciate your time. What would you tell a patient who says, I'm not sure I can afford this medication anymore?
Well, number one, I would say if you haven't enrolled in Fair Pharmacare, this is a province-wide program where the government can help subsidize the cost of medications and medical supplies. Make sure you enroll. And then also if you're a younger patient like 25 or under, if your parents have a health insurance plan, ensure you're enrolled in that. Look into generic medications. But also I want to make the point that about 60% of disease within Canada is due to lifestyle factors like issues with diet or exercise. And of course, there are lots of different conditions that require medications. But if it is one of those lifestyle-related conditions, make sure you're exercising regularly, eating a healthy plant-rich diet, sleeping enough, spending a lot of time outside, because this is going to reduce our overall reliance on medications. And also communities and governments should be investing in measures to make this easier, because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
We've heard that before. Certainly, Dr. Melissa Lim, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
An all-female crew have embarked on the latest example of space tourism today, traveling to the edge of the Earth's atmosphere. The true strategy behind the Blue Origin rocket spectacle. Next. You might call it a promotion for space tourism, but the latest launch of the Blue Origin rocket did achieve some notable firsts, including the first all-female crew U.S. spaceflight. Nicole Williams has more.
pop singer Katy Perry is officially an astronaut. Katy! And very happy to be back on Earth.
This experience is second to being a mom.
Perry, part of an all-female crew aboard billionaire Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin spacecraft, which blasted off Monday morning from the fields of West Texas. A star-studded trip to the edge of space, about 105 kilometers up, lasting all of 10 minutes, but enough time to enter zero gravity.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
On board, CBS Morning Show host Gayle King and Bezos' fiancée, Lauren Sanchez. Onlookers the likes of Oprah and the Kardashian family. And if all this spectacle has gotten your attention, well, that's the point.
Have you ever dreamed of going to space? A once-in-a-lifetime journey is closer than you think.
That phrase heard multiple times during the live stream of the launch, suggesting anyone can now travel to space. Not mentioned, though, the total cost. But you will need a deposit of $150,000 USD just to reserve a seat.
What we are not seeing is the cost of space travel go down enough to make it available even to the very wealthy. You know, if you have $10 million, it might be very hard still to go to space.
And even if you are rich and well-connected, space still remains largely inaccessible. After this launch, women still represent barely 15% of the more than 700 people who have traveled into space. But one source of inspiration, a part of the crew, Amanda Nguyen, a scientist and an advocate for survivors of sexual assault, sharing powerful words back on Earth.
In this moment, I just want all survivors to know that you can heal. No dream is too wild.
As the first Vietnamese woman to travel to space, Nguyen making history all on her own. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
Darius, were they actually in space?
I mean, if I go up to the Canada-U.S. border and I stick my toe over, am I in the States? Technically, but the Kármán line, 100 kilometers up from the Earth, is widely but not unanimously recognized as the border of space, and they spent 4 minutes up there above it, just barely above it. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's focus on Earth here.
Back here
I
on
spent
Earth.
too long talking about space. All right, our highs over the south coast over the next couple of days continuously coming up, especially if you're inland, going to feel very warm as we head into the end of the week. Across the province, tomorrow things come up in the south and then fall back down a little bit on Wednesday and then recover a little bit on Thursday. And in the north, a pretty similar picture, actually. If we take a look at our precipitation, nothing too exciting. Some will continue to come down the BC-Alberta border. The southeast and the northeast may see a few flurries or showers over the next couple days, but other than that, still lots of sunshine across BC. Even in those areas, mostly sunshine, just the very occasional little bit of precipitation coming your way. And then the next system starts to roll in on Friday into the weekend, coming down the coast. Unclear so far whether that will reach us here on the lower mainland. Seems probable, but by no means guaranteed. Our conditions across the province tomorrow, again, lots of sunshine with a few places that just have a slight chance of a little bit of precipitation. Kamloops there, mostly sunny still. I forgot to change that, just a couple showers. And here's our 5-day forecast, Dan. We've got lots of sunshine on the way, very warm temperatures inland. Seems like it's going to be a really nice week.
Okay, we'll take it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One more thing.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take a breath.
Why not? Thank you for reminding me. You're telling us about a disease that has been wiped out.
That's right. I want to talk about the flu today, which I think goes a little bit under-recognized. I don't think people recognize how many different types of the flu there are. This is sort of a family tree of the flu. Each of these different dots is a different lineage. That's for H1N1. This one is for H3N2, a whole different lineage of the flu. This is a whole different lineage, influenza B. This is the Victoria lineage. And you can see they just keep popping up. New ones, new strains keep popping up all the time, even into this year. This is live updating. But if we take a look at the influenza B Yamagata lineage, you'll notice 2020, they just stopped appearing. It seems like COVID lockdowns actually caused this lineage of the flu to completely go extinct. Scientists have not detected a single case of it since then anywhere in the world. What that means is that whole branch of the family tree just gone. Now, good news, of course, that a disease that can infect humans is gone, but even better news, it has long made up part of the flu vaccine that we all get, hopefully, every year. You get one strain from each of these. Now, we don't need this one anymore. So now there's a new spot that we could fill to make the flu vaccine even more effective by taking maybe 2 strains of one of these other ones.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Carbon fiber to graphite, picky pickleball players can have varied paddle preferences. We'll check in with a BC paddle maker next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox.
CBC returns as the exclusive media partner of the Doxa Documentary Film Festival, May 1st to 11th. Doxa presents an exceptional selection of films and events that cultivate curiosity and critical thought. Festival tickets at doxafestival.ca. And on May 15th, join CBC's Dan Burritt at the Surrey Board of Trade's Top 25 Under 25 Awards, celebrating initiatives of Surrey's youth. Tickets at businessinsurrey.com.
When it comes to pickleball, the paddle can make all the difference in how well you dink and flapjack, real terms. The cost? It can fluctuate, but some people believe that the more you pay, the better you'll hit a falafel.
Falafel? I thought golf terms were silly. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in North America with a heavy presence in the U.S. Shelley Joyce checked out a pickleball paddle manufacturer who's serving up equipment made in Canada.
My paddle is a Selkirk, which is a very popular brand name. For me, it's got a nice big sweet spot, which is a great place to hit the ball.
I'd spend between 150, 200. If I got the paddle, it would make me so much better.
I played with a cheapy paddle for a couple of years, and then my beautiful, kind wife bought me a nice paddle, and I must admit there was a difference.
How many paddles have you had?
Probably about 6.
Did you know they make paddles in Kamloops?
Yes, I do, and I've used those paddles.
Many of these players in Kamloops own several paddles purchased down south. But there's a new and voracious appetite for a pickleball paddle made in Canada.
I always say that we are the best kept secret in Canada.
Aaliyah Postma and Brooke Siver make paddles out of their home base in Kamloops.
I play the control game, and my paddles last anywhere between 1 to 2 years. And Brooke, how long do your paddles
Well, I play a
last?
little bit of harder game. Of course, I go through 3 to 4 paddles a year.
Beginner players want to hit the ball hard at first.
Graphite paddles, it produces a lot of power.
A more advanced player, they might choose something softer.
The fiberglass, what's called a plastic or polymer core, and it provides a lot more cushion.
They make 50 to 60,000 paddles every year. But the bones, or blanks as they call them, still come from the U.S.
Most of these, matter of fact, all of them come from one of the aerospace plants down in California, and we get them by boxes of hundreds, and we just keep building them all day long.
Most pickleball paddles are made in China or the U.S. Manta sources as much as they can from Canada.
We used to get the edging from China. We now get it out of Vancouver. We wanted to make sure that as much of our pickleball paddles are manufactured in Canada.
Customizing your paddle could make it feel more Canadian. Imagine having your dog's face on your pickleball paddle, or a photo of your kid.
One of our best pickleball giveaway paddles was when my wife and I got married in Jamaica, and we made customized wedding paddles.
So this is our grip, and we just start at the butt.
The final step, the butt cap and the wrap, done by hand.
Takes about 30 seconds to grip a paddle. It's completed and ready to be shipped out.
The cost to swing an almost made in Canada pickleball paddle? Anywhere from $100 to about $260. The homegrown flavor, priceless.
I think you focus more when you have a better paddle. You say, you know, I've spent some money on this. I've invested. I better play well.
Shelley Joyce, CBC News, Kamloops.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6.
We will have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. Good night.